Right now on the KFOX 14 Morning News, we are continuing to follow the migrant crisis in the border community of El Paso, Texas. In just a few minutes, I give you a live look of the intensifying situation near downtown El Paso, where hundreds of migrants are continuing to make our local streets their temporary home.
Good morning and welcome to the KFOX 14 Morning News. We'll get to weather and traffic in just a bit, but first, the migrant crisis in El Paso is reaching a breaking point with resources strained and shelters at capacity. This morning we have team coverage to bring you what is happening on the ground with Salina Madrid and reporter Ariana Parra in South El Paso. Well, Title 42 is supposed to expire in a week. Now, the city and private organizations are preparing for what the mayor has called the unknown. We first go to KFOX 14's Salina Madrid. She's near Sacred Heart Church this morning to show us what's happening there this morning with migrants that are still staying outside. Salina?
Well, I'm here near downtown El Paso, near Oregon and 4th Street. And before we want to give you a look at the hundreds of migrants who are in this area, as you can see, there is a lot of trash. We are seeing a lot of trash in this area this Wednesday morning, and it is just continuing to pile up. What we've been seeing is migrants continue to dig through this trash. I want you to go ahead and take a look at this alleyway where there are hundreds of migrants continuing to sleep. My photographer and I are going to kind of walk you through it. Now, this is on Oregon and 4th Street, and things continue to remain overcrowded, and this is just a little more than a week before Title 42 is expected to come to an end. Take a look at these makeshift beds that these migrants have made for themselves. Now, as you can see right here, what they have done is they've created a makeshift bed using this cardboard right here. Now, what they've done is they've used the cardboard as a mattress, and what they're doing is they're sticking their shoes under the top of the cardboard to make some type of pillow for themselves. Now, if we keep walking, you can see just how far down this goes. Go ahead, and my photographer is going to keep walking us through this area. Now, we did reach out to the city because they did release that there was going to be some type of no camping ordinance, and we did follow up with them on that yesterday. And they said that they are coordinating with NGOs and the Red Cross to increase capacity at additional NGO shelter sites to help with this largely undocumented population, to get them off of the streets and get them into some type of safety. They also say that Red Cross is going to be assisting. We've seen a lot of these migrants out here covered with Red Cross blankets today. Now, we've been here for the last, I would say, almost 2 hours, and things do seem to be a little bit chillier as the morning goes on. I think it's because of that breeze, but we're also hearing a lot of coughing. It seems like these migrants are getting sick from having to sleep outside. This is a developing situation, and as you can see, it is only heightening as the days go on, just a little more than a week before Title 42 is expected to come to an end. We're going to continue to follow this both on air and online at kfoxtv.com. Back to you.
As the El Paso city and county leaders prepare for the expiration of Title 42, migrants continue to pack the streets near downtown. KFOX 14's Salina Madrid now joining us live from South El Paso with how things are looking there this morning. Good morning, Salina.
Well, every single day that I've been out here, the group out here of migrants just continues to become larger and larger. Now that the sun is up, we can give you a better look at what things are actually looking like out here, the reality of this situation as migrants continue to make our streets their temporary home. Go ahead and take a look. Migrants are starting to wake up to start their day here on our city streets in El Paso. And if you look around the area, all around Sacred Church and the close surrounding streets, we're seeing migrants lined up on the sidewalks, not much space in between of one another. Now that they're starting to wake up, you can see just how large this crowd really is. And not only are these adults having to sleep on the streets, there is children, babies, who are having to bear these conditions as well. Now, city and county leaders say they are collaborating with NGOs and the Red Cross to get these people off the streets and into safety. But every single day, the amount of migrants crossing the border into El Paso, flocking to this area in particular, it just continues to grow. It continues to heighten. Now, these migrants in this area are literally living on the doorsteps of El Pasoans who live in this area. I actually just spoke to a man a little while ago who lives in this house. My photographer is going to pan over to show you. It's this house with the white car and the yellow light. Now, he says that once all of these migrants wake up, mind you, there's over 1,000 migrants here. He says they're flooding into his property, and it's something that he's not happy about. Take a listen.
Quiero saber cuándo se van a ir o cuándo se los van a llevar. I want to know when they're going to leave or when they're going to be removed. It's a lot. They're letting a lot of people come in, and they are a lot.
Now, the Biden administration, the newest update we have from them is that they are sending 1,500 military troops to border communities like ours here in El Paso, Texas, who are dealing with this influx of migrants on our local streets. Now, they say they are supposed to arrive next Wednesday. That's the day before Title 42 is expected to come to an end. And as we have been warned, once Title 42 does come to an end, things are only supposed to get significantly worse. Jessica.
That's right, Salina. And yesterday you also spoke with other people who live nearby who say they're dealing with certain smells there and that hygiene has also become an issue over the last few days. What are you seeing at the encampments when it comes to cleanliness?
That's right. Not only did I speak to that homeowner, but yesterday I spoke to another homeowner that lives in some apartment complex right around the block in this area. And he was telling me that his apartment is actually starting to smell like urine inside because he says that the migrants are urinating in an alleyway where he lives. And as these migrants are starting to wake up this morning, as we saw yesterday, what we're seeing them do, what I saw them do with my own eyes, especially yesterday, was brush their teeth and having to spit onto the concrete. And they also say that this is just a situation that is not ideal and they're trying to make the best out of the situation. One thing that I can say, though, is that when I came over here this morning, I did notice that all the trash bins that are put out by the city of El Paso, they were emptied. Yesterday, they were overflowing. So I did notice that. But we spoke to migrants about these concerns that they're having in terms of hygiene, and they said that what they're running into is that there's not enough portable restrooms for them to use to go to the bathroom or freshen up. There is also these hygiene stations. They're gray. You're seeing them right now. When all of these people wake up, mind you, a lot of them are still asleep this Thursday morning. They're having to go and use these portable restrooms, but the migrants are telling us they're having to find something else to use the restroom in or use the restroom at because the lines are just so long because there's so many people. Now, we took these concerns to the city of El Paso to ask what they're being done to alleviate these issues. Now, they're saying that they are adding portable restrooms. Yesterday, they added 10 more portable restrooms for these migrants to use. They also said that these portable restrooms are being cleaned twice every day. But mind you, there's over 1,000 migrants out here who are having to use almost 30 portable restrooms. A spokesperson with the city of El Paso does tell us that residents, if they have any concerns, to please utilize the non-emergency number 311, and they can hopefully get someone out there to help them out. Jessica, back to you.
We now want to go back to anchor Salina Madrid, who is out in South El Paso with what the situation looks like this morning, just days away of the expected end of Title 42. And Salina, I see there are some barriers right behind you. Now that has changed over the weekend, right? City leaders now closing off a portion of that South El Paso area.
That's right. A lot of efforts being taken to mitigate this very fluid situation. We just got word that Texas Governor Greg Abbott announced that he will be sending National Guard troops today to hot spots that are experiencing an influx of migrants in their area, and that includes El Paso. Now, the National Guard troops are going to be focused on stopping migrants from crossing illegally into the country, as we are seeing record numbers of migrants doing just that. Go ahead and take a look right here. As you can see, those barriers that Jessica was just mentioning, this is blocking off Father Rom Avenue. This is between South Oregon and South Mesa Street, this area right near Sacred Heart Church. As you can see, now that these barriers are up, the roadways are starting to become really congested in this specific area because migrants obviously know that there aren't any vehicles allowed in the roadway. But last week, what we were seeing was there were still migrants crossing the roads, jaywalking in this area, causing for there to probably be some safety concerns as things started to get a little bit hectic. And that's exactly why the City of El Paso's Office of Emergency Management put up these barriers here on Father Rom Avenue, as this is the area that we are specifically seeing a lot of these migrants continuing to congregate. Now, a spokesperson tells me they're trying to prevent any traffic accidents in this area because, as you can see, it has become extremely populated. Like I said, this is a very fluid situation. The state of El Paso, all the way from the local level to the federal level, having to find ways to respond to this just 3 days before Title 42 is expected to come to an end. Because as we have been warned, once Title 42 does come to an end, things are only supposed to get significantly worse. You remember Mayor Oscar Leeser saying last week that there were thousands of migrants on the Juarez side of the border, and they said that they're expected to get here before May 12th. So that is just an additional hundreds more of people coming to El Paso, going to make this situation a lot more hectic, as we're already seeing a lot of overcrowding in this area. Jessica, back to you.
Fox 14 anchor Salina Madrid is back in South El Paso this morning, which has been the heart of that migrant crisis. Salina, what are you seeing this morning?
Well, the situation here just continues to escalate. As you can see right here, people continuing to sleep on the streets in these cold temperatures. Well, what's happening right now, we actually just had some migrants come up to us and ask us to call 911 because they're having some type of medical emergency. Gonna let my photographer kind of walk ahead of me really quick so he can give you a better look at the situation that is going on. Now, this migrant who had us sought medical help. He is saying, he told us personally that this migrant was injured as they were crossing over and has a lot of wounds and that he isn't doing well. As you can see, there's a lot of people out here right now. There is over 2,500 migrants living in this area of El Paso. You can see El Paso firefighters on the scene. We also have more paramedics arriving now to help deal with this situation. This isn't the first time we've seen paramedics out here either. As you can see, the situation is continuing to heighten. It's continuing to intensify day in and day out. You can see those migrants around surrounding this man just laying on the concrete. They've created makeshift beds for themselves using cardboard. The numbers out here just continue to grow. As you can see, we have several El Paso Fire Department firefighters out here dealing with this situation. This migrant obviously in a lot of pain, as you can see. Now, the main reason we're seeing the sidewalks so full of people with nowhere to go, these people are literally stranded, and that's because shelters are overcrowded. These people are living on El Pasoans' doorsteps who live in El Paso. As you can see, this is an apartment complex right here where all of these migrants are sleeping alongside next to the wall. Well, the state of El Paso announced yesterday that they're going to be opening up additional shelters to try to help accommodate these migrants who are continuing to sleep on the streets day in and day out. We'll get to more about what that entails in just a bit, but I believe you can actually see right now them continuing to assist this migrant who seems to be in a lot of pain. Like I said earlier, the migrants around this area were telling us that he was actually injured as he was crossing over, and the pain started to become unbearable, and he has a lot of wounds on his body from crossing over and making that journey with some type of American dream, and they've obviously been met with this harsh reality, you know. They're having to sleep on the sidewalk day in and day out and having to deal with these situations as local leaders are trying to scramble to accommodate what the situation really is, as Title 42 is expected to come to an end next week. We're less than a week before that happens, and things are only supposed to get significantly worse once that policy is lifted, if it does lift. Jessica, do you have any questions? I'm willing to take them.
All right, Salina, so you are blocks away from Sacred Heart Church, and that's not the only church that's trying to help migrants here in El Paso. Other organizations, like you've been mentioning, running low on resources, causing these migrants to be out on the streets. What are they saying in terms of no longer being able to shelter and help migrants in the way that they would want to?
Yeah, Jessica, these shelters and these churches who are helping out, bringing these migrants in, allowing them to a place to lay their head at night, they are strained. Their hands are tied because they're overcrowded right now. We've been in constant communication with the pastor of Sacred Heart Church, which is to my right, and that's the church that you are seeing all of these migrants around as they are continuing to overcrowd this area. Now, he tells us because the church helps people who are undocumented, it cannot receive federal funding. Instead, Sacred Heart Church relies on donations from the Red Cross and the Diocese of El Paso. This is a collaboration between all of them for help because they cannot receive that federal funding. And as of this week, 140 migrants were moved from Sacred Heart to St. Ignatius, another church in the Segundo Barrio. But honestly, you wouldn't even be able to notice that movement because there's just so many people out here on our local streets.
The need is so great that we can only do so much. We serve the people there as best we can.
Now, meantime, other migrants have been able to arrange for travel out of El Paso, but there are still more people coming in than going out. The situation just continuing to escalate. As you can see, El Paso firefighters still helping provide aid to this migrant who is dealing with this medical emergency right now. But for the people here on the streets, this is something that they're used to seeing. This is part of the journey. And as you can see, they're just continuing to lay here stranded with absolutely nowhere to go until the city of El Paso, federal, state, anyone comes in to help them out, which they are doing. They said they're going to be opening up shelters. The Biden administration actually sending troops to help border communities like ours who are in need. As you can see, the situation, like I said, continues to intensify. We're seeing it with our own eyes. It's really hard to put into words what we're seeing out here right now.
KFOX 14 anchor Salina Madrid has been following the situation outside of Sacred Heart Church, which has become the epicenter. She now joins us live. And Salina, you were telling us earlier that you're seeing a bit more of law enforcement presence out there this morning, right?
That's right, Jessica. Seeing a lot more El Paso police officers as well as El Paso County Sheriff's Office and Border Patrol patrolling this area. We haven't seen them on the ground in regards to parking their vehicle and getting off the road and walking down Father Ram Avenue, as you were saying yesterday, but we are seeing a lot more of their units in this area. And this morning, as migrants were sleeping during the 5 o'clock hour, Border Patrol agents who were not in uniform, they sent this letter to these migrants, handing it to them. Basically what it says is if you're getting help through organizations like Sacred Heart Church and you have not been processed, you have to do so. It says if they have not been processed, they need to turn themselves in. It also giving an address right here, as you can see, where exactly they can do that. Go ahead and take a look. As you can see, migrants continuing to sleep on the streets. You can see those Red Cross blankets over them. Red Cross has been on the ground handing out blankets, hygiene products, providing aid to migrants who are in need. This is an apartment complex you're looking at now. Go ahead and take a look at this. You can see these migrants using this railing on this apartment complex, kind of like a clothesline. These migrants literally living on people's doorsteps. This is all down Father Ram Avenue. As you can see, Father Ram Avenue is completely shut down. This was an executive decision made by the City of El Paso's Office of Emergency Management for safety reasons, because before this area was blocked down, there was a lot of passerby traffic coming through. We are still seeing quite a bit of people in this area, and as soon as more people start to wake up, the lines to use these portable restrooms, they are going to get significantly long. These hygiene stations as well. You can see these migrants utilizing this hygiene station right here, but also another thing you're seeing, take a look at the ground. A lot of trash in this area, a lot of trash starting to accumulate in the sewer drains out here. You can see that right here behind me. My photographer going to give you a look at just how much trash we are seeing. This is a very fluid situation, and despite the numbers of migrants coming into this area, U.S. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas stands by his word that the border is secure. The White House press secretary saying that the Biden administration is prepared to deal with any issues that might arise when the public health order is lifted this coming Thursday.
We have a robust multi-agency plan to humanely manage the border through enforcement, deterrence, and diplomacy. And we're implementing that plan with our regional partners using the few tools we have remaining because, again, Congress has failed to act. The president has taken action on this issue of the border since day one. And what we're seeing from Republican officials, what we're seeing from Congress, Republicans in Congress, is they want to play politics.
And those targeted enforcement operations that Ariana has been mentioning, as you've been hearing from her, those being done by CBP and ICE, those are expected to be executed here around South El Paso as well. We're going to continue to follow this developing situation. We saw those troops from the National Guard be sent from Texas Governor Greg Abbott yesterday. Tomorrow, we're supposed to get military troops being sent from the Biden administration, though it is still unclear how many of those troops will be assigned to this El Paso area. Jessica, going to send things back on over to you.